Welcome to the HRchat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit HRgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HRchat Show. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Banham. And in this episode, we're heading to Ireland to explore what's next for the people profession at a time when disruption, skills challenges, and changing expectations at work are reshaping how organizations are operating. And joining me on the show today for the first time is a pretty cool person. I think actually my first call that I had with her only last week was probably the best call I've had this month so far. She's that cool. Her name is Alison Hodgson. She is the market director for Ireland at the CIPD. And Alison joined the CIPD from RSM Ireland, where she was consulting partner for transformation, HR and change. A chartered champion of the CIPD, Alison has worked across multiple sectors, from retail and technology to telecoms, financial services, and semi-state organizations. And her expertise spans everything. She's a pretty clever lady, but specifically HR, L&D, and organizational development. And in this conversation, listeners, we're going to look at how the CIPD is supporting HR and people leaders in Ireland through research, policy, member engagement, and capability building, while keeping a close eye on the big themes of skills, flexible working, and well-being. We'll also preview what excellence in HR looks like right now and give a little spotlight on the CIPD HR Awards in Ireland, which is taking place in February 2026, which is when this episode is going to drop. Alison, how are you doing? Welcome to the show today.
Oh, thanks, Bill. It's great to be here with you.
Let's get straight into it then. You've moved from a consulting partner role, leading transformation, HR and change at RSM Ireland, as I mentioned just a moment ago, into the market director role at CIPD Ireland. What drew you to that opportunity, and what feels most urgent right now for the profession? Gosh, that's a big question to start with.
Yeah. It was a really big personal decision for me to leave industry after, a couple of decades as a HR practitioner across several industry sectors. When this role came about, it kind of was my dream job, though. And it was a departure from industry and from being a practitioner, but into what I absolutely love and believe in, which is advocating for the profession and the sector. So look, as you know, the CIPD has been around for over 100 years in the UK. In Ireland, it's been here for nearly 50 years. We've got 6,500 members in Ireland, and globally we've got 165,000 members. And what's HR in the year 2026? Well, I suppose I would describe it as four priorities in a wider context of geopolitical uncertainty, pace of change, legislative change, and technological advances. And I suppose the first one really is a HR professional is always considering what's called fondly as TOM, the target operating model. So how should the organization that you're working in, how should we arrange ourselves? How should we structure the way we do what we do? How should we design our jobs? How should we design our workflows in order to achieve our book of work and the strategy and the purpose and the goals of the organization that you're operating in? That's probably the trickiest job of any HR practitioner, because you're balancing budget with headcount, with capability, with strategy, with skills gap, with market demands, with what you've got internally, with your talent management processes, with your learning and development, with your recruitment and talent acquisition partners. So it's a really complex, with multi-variable exercise that's very live and is never done. So the TOM is always on your to-do list, so to speak, as a HR practitioner. Just very quickly, the other three priorities that I see are the debate around performance versus productivity. And that really comes from, the new ways of working around return to office, hybrid working, flexible working, distributed located teams, technological advances such as AI, and what does it mean to be high performing, versus highly productive. And I suppose how I would describe that challenge is there's a lot more to being productive than just ticking off the items on your task list. So it's about culture, creativity, collaboration, co-creation, all things that can only be done when humans meet in person. I think the third priority right now is around culture and building enabling cultures, and being clear about, as organisations, what are your values, and what culture do you want as an organisation, and then making sure that everybody understands that and knows what part they can play in that. And then the last piece is around talent management, lifelong learning, succession planning, and consistently looking at the skills that are needed and the capability that is needed in every organisation to deliver your book of work and your strategy. And that's all within the context of changing legislative landscapes and advances in technology and ways of working.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HRchat podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at HRgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
Wonderful answer. Best thing about that answer was an apology for our listeners who can't see the video here. But the best thing about the answer was the cameo from Alison's dog towards the end there. That's a beautiful, beautiful picture.
He concurs completely, doesn't he?
He does. He's totally on board with everything. I think he's a bit skeptical about the possibilities of AI from that look he gave.
I'm not sure he wants to return to the office either, Bill. You know, I think he likes working from home.
He's a remote dog. There we go. Okay, so as I mentioned in my intro, that you had the best impact on me of any call I've had in January. It's been a great month so far. I've had lots of calls. You are clearly a warm and gregarious person. Part of your still fairly newish role at CIPD is the relationship building piece, spreading the word, supporting the growth of the organisation. What does growth mean in practice for CIPD Ireland? So in terms of membership, influence, capability building, partnerships, something broader. Can you give us an overview?
Well, look, in short, it means all of those things. And, you know, when you're talking about growth in a not-for-profit organisation, it's always tricky, isn't it? Because, you know, we are not for profit, but we're not for loss either. And so we do have a financial margin that we need to make on some of our commercial products and service offerings. And that margin that we make then gets invested back in to the membership, and that allows us to serve our members, represent them, be at the stakeholder tables, engaging with the government representatives to make sure that the employer's share of voice is there, omnipresent and loud and clear. So, you know, for me, it's about growing membership, making sure that we continue to invite all HR professionals to be included. And there's another market that we want to invite in, and that is the people manager market. So when you look at the Ireland economy here, the small to medium enterprise market, 99.8% of enterprises in Ireland are small to medium, and they employ over 66% of the working population here in Ireland. And within that market segment, so to speak, is a very large tranche of professionals who are not HR, but they have got responsibility and accountability for line management and people management. And when I was joining the organisation last year, I wanted to be able to size that market so that I could show the opportunity to the organisation in terms of what was there for the taking, so to speak. And it's a difficult market to size, as you might imagine, but I suppose the most valid source I could find was statista.com, and they size that market, so that is professionals in Ireland who are not HR and have got responsibility for people and line management. Statista.com sizes that market at anywhere between 280,000 and 400,000 professionals in Ireland. So that is a very large segment of the population, a very large demographic that have got direct responsibility and impact on the quality of working lives for everybody here. So if I step back and look at the purpose of the CIPD, which is to champion better work and working lives, then a line manager plays a huge part in that whole equation. So one of the things that we're doing as an organisation, CIPD globally, is we have got what's called a group affiliate subscription. And that is to give access to our thought leadership, content, resources, materials, frameworks, templates, guidance documents, questions and answers, tools for people managers who are dealing with the challenges of what it is to manage people on a day-to-day basis. So if you're a manager and you're not a HR person, you can log on to, and you're going into a meeting, and it might be a performance review, it might be a tricky conversation, it might be around an organisation change that's in the offing that will have an impact on an individual's role, or you might be checking in on culture and engagement. You can log on to our resource hub and you can ask a question, and it's AI powered, so you will get a curated answer to the prompt and the question that you ask, and it'll give you those templates and those frameworks that will enable you and empower you to have a more effective, more impactful engagement and interaction with the person that you're responsible for. So to me, the CIPD, I really believe in professional bodies, and we are the professional body for the world of HR. I really believe in giving back and paying forward to the HR profession, but I actually really believe in our purpose, which is about advocating for better work and working lives.
Okay, love that. I would just add, earlier today, we posted on LinkedIn that the HR Chat Show has been again listed as a top resource, a top HR podcast. Guess who else is on that list of top HR podcasts for 2026? CIPD. So check out those as a resource as well.
Great.
And there will, of course, be links in the show notes to the CIPD resources listeners. Alison, skills is one of the key agendas that CIPD is focusing on. Where are Irish organisations most at risk right now in terms of maybe skills shortages, skills mismatches, retention, pace of reskilling? Give us your take.
Most organisations are reporting skills shortages, and it's tricky, isn't it? Because the skills economy is about future-proofing your organisation to make sure that you can, as best as you can, see around those corners in terms of what will you as an organisation need in terms of capability and skills to be able to deliver your strategy, your book of work, your goals and your objectives. And, when I look at HR, when I started 30 odd years ago, it was literally tea and tissues. It was a very transactional function where, for example, you were focused on the number of hours that you scheduled on a roster. Fast forward 30 odd years, you're now not obsessed with the numbers of hours scheduled on a roster, but what you are obsessed with is the capability that you have at any one given time in order to deliver what you need to deliver. So that's how I would sum up the transformation of HR and the skills economy today. And when I look at Irish organisations, I think we're as an economy, I think we're pretty leading edge in terms of future-proofing ourselves. We are an open economy. We are agile. We are flexible. We have embraced definitely the great thing that the pandemic gave us was true flexible working. Absolutely true flexible working. And as a country and as a culture here, I think we have embraced that. The skills, and the reason I bring that up is because there's a big debate here around return to office versus hybrid working, and that brings in the debate I talked earlier about one of the priorities being performance versus productivity, and where is the Venn diagram across those two dimensions. And it's tricky, isn't it? We've got an infrastructure problem here in Ireland where commuting to work is taking longer than it used to do. It's costing more than it did. And where does that impact skill shortages and organisations' ability to retain the talent that they need? So when I look at our HR survey practices, one of the top 4 reasons for changing jobs and for looking to change jobs was the cost of living and commute. And both of those are integrated and intertwined, really. So it's a complex, multifactorial dimension, really, that I think, again, will continue to always be live and always be on our to-do lists.
I'd like to now focus on the HR Awards 2026 in Ireland, which are taking place in early February. Listeners, Alison was so kind. She said, Bill, we should come along to this. It's just a short flight. I can't make it. I'm very upset that I can't make it.
Ben's coming. Ben is coming.
Ben's coming. Ben, who was our final guest on the pod of 2025, the co-organizer of Disrupt Dublin, along with me and Ivan. So Ben's coming, and he can take lots of photos of him having a wonderful time to make me jealous.
But you have got in your diary our annual conference, haven't you, on the 16th of April?
It's I'm planning on getting there if I can. Yes. If not, Ben will be coming.
The cameo of Ben. Great.
Okay, well, let's not forget to mention the conference in April as well, but let's just briefly focus on the awards, if that's okay. So the CIPD HR Awards 2026 in Ireland take place in Feb. What do you think these awards represent for the profession, and what patterns is your team seeing in the types of work being recognised? So in terms of strategy, leadership, innovation, impact, and so on.
I think what is always very energising and reassuring about the CIPD in Ireland HR Awards is that all of the entrants are really clear about what their business challenge was. They're really good at demonstrating the capability of being data-driven, that they establish baselines and they track the impact and the sustainable nature of the interventions and the actions that they have taken. There are some pretty progressive stuff there, and it's cross sector. We had entries this year from sectors that have not been represented before, so that's what's good. And of course, this year for the first time, the winners in the Ireland CIPD Awards get an automatic entry into the global CIPD People Management Awards. So we've re-engineered the awards this year to align the categories with the global awards. So the work doesn't have to be done again. The work is already done, and it is just literally cut and paste, and you hit submit, and you've entered, so to speak. So we're very pleased about that, and we're very much looking forward to a day of celebration. So it's on Friday the 13th of February. It's a lunch that for the most part goes into the evening as well, as you might imagine, with the celebrations. But it's always great it's a great learning event as well, because you hear what's going on in all sorts of different categories and sectors from what you've entered, and from a judge's perspective. So I've been a judge for many years. This year, obviously, I sat the other side of the table, but the judges always tell us how enjoyable that they find the whole exercise of judging, and how important it is actually for them to pay back and play a part.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. So you could win an award in Ireland and you could be a global winner. What's not to love? Alison, tell us a bit more about your conference in April. Why should people go along to that?
Yeah, so it is the theme of back to the data-driven business imperative, golden thread that I like to link through everything that we do. So I'm not a big fan of HR just for HR's sake. I think that's one of my pet hates, and it always has been. So our conference is people, purpose, and performance. And we are literally, our goal is to present real and relevant case studies, examples, thought leadership, content, material, resources from our exhibitors and from our partners and from our members. And it's in the RDS on the 16th of April. We've got some international speakers, as well as some Ireland success stories, as well as some thought leadership and an exhibition hall, which hopefully you will get to experience yourself, Bill, because it's one of those immersive experiential events that we like to think is flagship.
Okay, there you go, listeners. Be there or be a rectangle. Before we wrap up for today, you and I originally connected because myself with a couple of others are relaunching the Disrupt series in Dublin.
Which I'm delighted about. Delighted about, Bill.
And you were so kind by responding, and CIPD are supporting us. You guys are sending Linda Waters is going to be one of the speakers, along with John Kennedy, who is the Vice Chair of CIPD Ireland National Committee.
Coming chair next year, yeah.
Oh, and chair next year. Oh, there we go. Alison, you're so busy and important. You've got to be somewhere else on that particular day. So I'm gonna hound you until we get you on stage, perhaps for the next one in the summer.
You're very kind. You're very kind.
So yeah, listen, I'll add a link in the show notes to that event as well, so you can see Linda and John and maybe up to about a dozen other speakers at that event. That just leaves me to say for today, though, Alison, I think you're awesome. Keep being you, doing what you're doing. Thank you very much for being my guest.
Thanks, Bill. It's honestly been a pleasure and great to connect, and wishing you every success with the Disrupt HR series. I think it's great, and I'm delighted to see you back on the shores of Ireland.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.